The old asylum had been closed for years, but Dr. Sarah Reed was sent there for a final inspection before the building would be demolished. The air inside was heavy with mold and dust. The lights barely worked, and the halls echoed with every step. Sarah moved slowly, her flashlight cutting through the shadows. She paused near a room marked 13. The door was slightly open. Curious, she pushed it gently. Inside, the room looked untouched. A metal-framed bed sat against the wall, sheets still rumpled like someone had just left. On the floor, there were scribbled pages. She picked one up. He watches when I sleep. He wears my face. Room 13 is not mine anymore. Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind her. "Hello?" she called out, heart racing. "Is someone there?" No answer. Then she heard breathing, slow, heavy, coming from the dark corner of the room. She aimed her flashlight. A man stood there, pale, dressed in a hospital gown, his eyes wide and blank. He looked just like her. "Who are you?" Sarah whispered, backing away. The figure spoke in a voice exactly like hers. "You left me here. They took my name, my face. Now I live here. Forever." Sarah screamed and yanked the door, but it wouldn't budge. From behind her, the figure whispered, "We don't leave room 13. We become it." The next morning, the demolition crew arrived. They found all the doors open, except one. Room 13. Inside, there were 2 beds now, and 2 patients, both staring blankly at the wall. Both wearing the same face. Danny was a new night guard at Black Hollow Asylum, now turned into a storage facility. Most of the building was empty, except for the old East Wing. They called it the Whisper Ward. His supervisor warned him, "Don't go past the red line." On the floor, that part sealed off for a reason. Danny laughed it off. "Ghost stories, come on, man." At 2:37 a.m., his radio crackled. "Help, room 3, please." A child's voice. Danny froze. The radio wasn't even on. The right channel. He checked the hallway, empty. Curiosity got the better of him. He followed the sound past the red line. The hallway grew colder with each step. Fluorescent lights above flickered. He reached room 3, its number carved into the wood like it had been clawed there. Inside was a single bed, rusty and chained to the floor. On the wall, written over and over in what looked like dried blood, "Make them stop whispering. Please." Danny turned to leave, but the door had shut. Whispers filled the air surrounding him. "Danny. Danny." "They're in your head now." He dropped his flashlight. In its dim beam, shadows danced across the room, figures twisted and writhing. A girl stood in the corner, long hair hiding her face. He stepped back. Who are you?" She looked up slowly. Her mouth didn't move, but the whisper came loud in his skull. "We've been waiting for someone to listen." His screams echoed through the halls, then stopped all at once. The next morning, his shift log ended at 2:37 a.m. The radio was off. But in room 3, there was a new message on the wall. "Danny listens now." In 1982, Dr. Martin Hawthorne was the head psychiatrist at Cold Pine Asylum. Brilliant but cold, he believed every patient could be cured with the right method. His final patient, Eleanor, changed everything. She had no records, no known family. She just appeared one day at the gate screaming about the red-eyed man in the walls. They gave her a room in the isolation wing. Dr. Hawthorne met with her daily. She stared at him with glassy eyes. "He's behind your eyes now," she said calmly during one session. He wrote it down. Paranoia increasing. "Dr. Hawthorne," she whispered, "when the lights flicker, don't blink. That's when he moves." He chuckled and closed his notebook. Enough for today. That night his office lights flickered, just for a second. The next day, Eleanor was gone. No one saw her leave. The door had never been opened. Just gone. And Hawthorne started hearing the whisper, low, raspy. Right behind him. Don't blink. He stopped sleeping. He stopped eating. He spoke less. Staff began to notice something was wrong, but before they could act, he vanished. Only, his coat remained, hanging neatly on the back of his chair. On his desk his journal lay open. I blinked. In present day, a contractor renovating the abandoned asylum found that journal. He read the entry aloud. Then the lights flickered. Back in the 1960s, Greystone Asylum ran an experiment called the mirror test. Patients were told to sit in front of a large mirror for exactly 5 minutes, alone. They were asked only one question afterward. Did your reflection move before? You did? Most said no. A few said yes and were never seen again. Decades later, a young psychology student named Lily got access to the abandoned facility for her thesis. She was curious about the mirror test and wanted to try it herself. The mirror still stood in the old therapy room, cracked slightly, its surface cloudy from age. She set her timer for 5 minutes, sat in the chair, and faced it. Nothing happened. Minute 1 passed. Her reflection stared back, tired, nervous. Minute 2. She rubbed her eyes. The reflection did the same. Minute 3. A soft creaking sound. Pipes? Or something else? Minute 4. Her reflection smiled. She didn't. She froze. Her real face was still. But in the mirror, the smile grew wider, sharper. Her reflection leaned forward. Lily stayed frozen, heart pounding. At exactly 5 minutes, the timer beeped. She blinked and the reflection returned to normal. Back at home, she couldn't stop thinking about it. That night, while brushing her teeth, she glanced in her bathroom mirror. Her reflection didn't blink when she did. It smiled again. Nurse Evelyn worked the night shift at Belmore Asylum for 22 years. She was kind, calm, and never afraid, until her final week. One night, she was doing her rounds when she noticed something odd. Room 9, which had been empty since a fire, 10 years ago, had its light on. She frowned. That room was sealed. Evelyn opened the observation window and looked in. There was a woman sitting on the bed, back turned, hair tangled and long, slowly rocking. Thinking it was a homeless person who'd broken in, Evelyn unlocked the door and stepped inside. "Ma'am, you can't be here," she said gently. The woman didn't respond. Evelyn reached out to touch her shoulder, but her hand passed right through her. The woman stopped rocking. Then slowly she turned her head. Evelyn gasped. The woman had no face, just stretched pale skin. Yet she smiled somehow, impossibly. A sharp whisper filled the room. "I remember you, nurse. You gave me the wrong pills." Evelyn backed out, slamming the door. Her hands were shaking. Room 9 stayed dark the rest of her shift. But every night after that, Evelyn saw the light on again. And every night the faceless woman sat there smiling. On Evelyn's last shift, she left her keys, her badge, and a note. "I can't do rounds anymore. Room 9 won't let me leave. They never found her. But Room 9's light still turns on, every night at 3:17 a.m. Jared, a maintenance worker, was hired to help clean up St. Elora Asylum before it was turned into a museum. Most of the place was trashed. Broken beds, torn curtains, rotting floorboards. But the vents were clean. Too clean. On his first day, Jared heard something strange while inspecting a hallway vent. "It's cold in here, so cold." He paused, thought maybe it was wind. Or rats. But then came laughter, a child's laughter, echoing faintly through the duct. No one else heard it. The other workers joked. Old buildings like to talk, but that night Jared stayed, late. He followed the sound through the narrow maintenance tunnels, crawling through rusted vents, flashlight flickering. He stopped at one, deep behind Ward C. It hadn't been opened in decades. Inside, he found a small, square space, too small for a person, but someone had lived there. Tiny mattress, Drawings on the walls, all done in crayon. Stick figures with no mouths. One message was scratched into the metal. If I stay quiet, they forget I exist. Then his flashlight went out. In the pitch-black silence, Jared heard breathing right behind him inside the vent. A whisper brushed his ear. I never left. He scrambled backward, slicing his hands on broken screws. He didn't stop until he reached daylight. He quit the next morning. The new crew found his tools by the open vent. On eye, the wall next to it drawn in fresh crayon. One more stick figure, this time with Jared's face. Nobody remembered when patient 42 was admitted to Ravenbrook Asylum. No records, no file, no history. He sat in his cell all day staring at the wall. Never ate, never blinked. The staff called him the Watcher. One nurse, Thomas, felt sorry for him. Hey man, Thomas said during rounds. You need anything? The patient slowly turned his head. His eyes were pure black, empty, like looking into a pit. In a deep, flat voice, he said, I'm just waiting. For what? Thomas asked, unnerved. The man smiled slightly. For you to remember. Thomas laughed awkwardly and moved on. But that night, he had strange dreams. A hallway filled with screams. A door marked 42, blood leaking from under it. When he woke up, he had claw marks on his chest, deep, fresh. The next day, patient 42 was gone. Just vanished. Door locked. No one saw him leave. Thomas tried to report it, but the staff denied the patient ever existed. There is no room 42, the director said firmly. Thomas stormed down the hall, confused and angry. Then he stopped. There was a room 42. The number was scratched off, but he remembered it clearly. He opened the door. Inside was a mirror, and staring back at him was patient 42, smiling. Back in 1974, the West Wing of Harrogate Asylum was shut down after a fire took the lives of 5 children housed in the juvenile unit. No one talked about it. The files were sealed. But the room where they died still stood. Room 7C, known among staff as the Lullaby Room. They say if you pass it at night, you'll hear humming. Soft, broken. Like a child's lullaby played on a warped record. Nina, a young intern, didn't believe in ghost stories. One night, while doing an inventory check, she passed 7C. She paused. The door was open just a crack. From inside, she heard the faint tune, "Hush, little baby, don't say a word." She pushed the door open. The air smelled of burned fabric and ash. The walls were scorched, but strangely, 5 beds remained perfectly clean, untouched. In the center sat a small music box, open and spinning. Nina stepped inside. The box stopped. All 5 beds creaked as if someone had just sat up on each one. The lullaby began again, this time slower, deeper, off-key. A whisper filled the room. Stay and finish the song with us. The door slammed shut. Nina screamed, banging on it. They found her the next morning, huddled in a corner, rocking back and forth, humming the lullaby over and over. She never spoke again. Now, if you walk past room 7C, you'll hear 2 voices singing. When Dr. Lena Morris transferred to Ashpine Asylum, she was given one task: review old patient tapes for a research study. Simple work, she thought. Just watch and document. Most of the tapes were decades old, grainy, black and white interviews. But one tape stood out, tape number 137. There was no label, just a sticky note that said, "Do not view alone." Lena smiled at the warning and pushed it into the player. At first, just static, loud and sharp. Then the screen cleared. A man sat tied to a chair in a padded cell, his eyes wide. Blood trickled from his ears. The interviewer asked, "What do you hear?" The patient whispered, "The static talks to me. It says things I shouldn't know." The doctor in the video leaned forward. What does it say now? The patient turned to face the camera, as if staring right at Lena. It says, "She's watching." The screen flickered again, then showed Lena's own reflection, distorted and warped like a funhouse mirror version of her. The tape ejected itself. Shaken, Lena stood up, but the room was filled with static. From the intercom, her phone, even her breathing felt crackly. That night she heard whispers from inside her TV, even though it was unplugged. By morning, Lena was found unconscious on the floor, eyes wide open, repeating one phrase. "The static talks to me. Tape number 1137 has never been found since." Derek signed up for a sleep study at Halberd Psychiatric Institute, desperate for extra cash. The flyer said, "One night, isolated sleep chamber, $800, no contact, no devices." He agreed. Easy money. They led him into a plain white room, padded walls, a single bed, one camera in the corner. No windows, he noted. The doctor smiled. "We'll wake you at 7 a.m. Try to rest." The door shut with a loud click. For the first few hours, Derek lay in silence. But the quiet got louder. He started hearing things. A faint knocking behind the walls. A child humming. He laughed nervously. "Nice touch. Part of the test, huh?" No answer. He banged on the door. "Hey, not funny anymore." Still silence. At 3:12 a.m., he woke up gasping. His bed had moved. Just a few inches, but he swore he hadn't touched it. Then the lights went out. In the darkness, the camera made a soft whir, and a red dot blinked. He whispered, "Is someone in here with me?" A voice replied, inches from his ear. "You are the someone." When the lights flicked back on, he was lying in the opposite corner of the room, curled up, eyes wide. He didn't remember moving. At 7 a.m., the staff opened the door. Derek was gone. Only the bed remained, pushed to the center, camera blinking. They checked the footage. There was no recording, only static, for 6 hours straight. Now, when new volunteers enter that same room, the camera flickers, and for just a second you can see Derek standing behind them, watching. When Emily joined Rookridge Asylum as a trainee therapist, she was warned about one rule. Never unlock the red door in the sub-basement. It stays sealed, no exceptions. She thought it was a joke, an old superstition among staff. But curiosity grew when she noticed something odd. None of the blueprints mentioned a red door. One night, working late, Emily found a key labeled RD on the head nurse's desk. She hesitated, then slipped it into her coat pocket. The sub-basement was on cold. The lights flickered like they were breathing. Pipes groaned above her as she found it. A rusted red door bolted shut with thick chains. The key fit. Click. The chains unraveled on their own, clinking softly as they hit the floor. She pulled the door open. The room was pitch black and silent. But deep inside, a voice echoed, "Emily." Her blood froze. "How do you know my name?" The voice responded, calm and low. "You used to live here, before they made you forget." She stepped back, heart racing. Then something moved inside the darkness. A shape, tall, thin, familiar. It stepped closer to the light. Emily's mouth fell open. "No, that's not possible." The thing smiled. Her smile, her face, her eyes. The last thing she heard was, "I've been waiting to come back." They found the red door open the next morning. Inside, nothing but a cracked mirror on the wall. Emily was gone. But every few nights, the security cameras catch a woman walking. The halls, dressed like Emily but smiling just a little too wide. Theo was a part-time night guard at the long-abandoned Brookfield Mental Hospital, now being prepped for demolition. His job was to make sure no one snuck in. But sometimes, he heard footsteps from inside. That night, while doing rounds, his flashlight flickered and died. He cursed and pulled out his phone light. Then he heard it. Footsteps. Behind him. Slow, dragging, then stopping. He spun around. Nothing. But now, one of the doors was open. Room 28. The hallway had been locked for years. He never opened it. No one did. He should have called it in. But some pressure pushed him forward. Room 28 was dark and cold. Dust floated like ash in the air. In the corner sat an old wheelchair, and a voice whispered, "Finally. You're late." Theo froze. "Who's there?" A tall figure stepped from the shadows wearing an old guard uniform, his uniform, with the same badge number. Theo stammered, "This some kind of prank?" The figure smiled. "I took your shift. Now, it's your turn to stay." The door slammed shut behind him. Theo ran to it. Locked. He banged and screamed, but no one came. When the day crew arrived, the door to room 28 was open again. Inside, the wheelchair sat empty. Theo's uniform lay folded neatly on the bed, but the security camera outside the door recorded something at 3:47 a.m. A second Theo walking calmly out of the room and smiling into the camera.